Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Life. My name is Rob Edgerly. I'm with Maine Life Real Estate, brokered by eXp Realty, and I am excited for this week's show. I'm joined by a guy who has got a really interesting message for us. And I was turned on to him by another friend in the business who's a coach who said, hey, you got to talk to this guy. He knows his stuff about money, finances, and in particular for us real estate agents. So I'm pleased to be joined today by Damon Yudichak.
It's great to be here, Rob. I love the intro you have there. That got me all jazzed up.
Yeah, thank you. That's our fancy intro. I've always wanted to have one of those, so we've got it. Hey, thanks for being here. We had a great conversation the other day, just an intro call, and I thought, there's a lot of different directions we can go. We started talking about Profit First, which we'll talk about, a great book that was written, and you're doing another version of that book for real estate agents.
Correct.
And we got talking about how you, as an accountant, you are helping agents do the right thing with their money so they have predictable results, and basically putting the power back in their hands to control that money. And that's something, having been in different situations with money in my life, I thought that would really resonate with a lot of agents. We are, with our team, we're bringing on new agents all the time, and we're coaching them to set up business accounts and actually treat their business like a business and really control their money and, transition to becoming independent contractors rather than employees. So there's some different challenges that come along with that. So I thought that, so I'm looking forward to hearing which directions we go in today. And do you want to just give us a little bit of an intro of yourself, and I'll stop talking.
Okay. Yeah, great. Well, I was actually born in Bar Harbor, Maine. My father was, so I love Maine. I used to vacation in Maine growing up. My grandmother lived in Nana. She lived in Bangor for until she passed on. My father was stationed at Winter Harbor in the Navy, and then he transitioned to the Army. I moved around a lot. And I even put some time in the Army myself. And while I was in the Army, I was like, well, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. I wanted to finish up college, and I went into accounting. And started my practice back in 2008. And over time, one of the things I did a couple of years ago is I did an 80-20 analysis of my clients. 80-20 rule, or the Pareto Principle, that says that 20% of our work produces 80% of our results. So I was interested to see who are my 20% of my clients. So I made a list of my clients and then the annual revenue I got from them. And it ended up that 80% of my revenue came from 20% of my clients. And the interesting thing with that also was that they were primarily real estate agents, and they were my favorite clients. So it didn't take a lot of rocket science to figure out that that's really where I wanted to focus my business. And I became a Profit First professional a number of years ago, and went on to write Profit First for real estate agents, which will be coming out later this year. And one of the things, if you'll notice right back here, that simplify is on my wall. That's my word for the year. And one of the things I think we get really confused by money because it tends to be overcomplicated. So what I wanted to share today was a way to simplify the personal finances. Because now you all may be different than me, right? Have you ever heard that phrase, the cobbler wears no shoes, or his children wear no shoes?
Yes.
It's like, and it's probably because cobbler doesn't want to make any more shoes. He spends all day making his shoes for everyone else. And right. About a year ago, right as COVID was hitting, I was like, okay, I need to be a little bit more proactive on the personal side of my business, or my personal finances. I actually really didn't have a clue about how much money I was spending personally. Is anyone out there like that? So I wanted to take the profit first system, which I had worked so well, and basically use that on the personal side and make it so that I didn't have to think about my personal finances. And I was making sure that I was covering my bills, making sure I was saving money on a regular basis, and not having to really worry about money. And so I put that system together, and that's what I'm here to talk about today.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, I think that probably resonates with some people. I'm sure some others out there haven't always controlled their money the way that they should. Maybe it's something that's hitting home right now. So let's put this in perspective. So we actually had to back this up an hour because I had a closing that got bumped. And so I just went to the closing, and, as I'm driving away, listening to, Jay-Z on to the next one, I've got my check in my hand, I'm putting it in the bank account, and I'm going to have I am practicing profit first, so I will end up paying myself after it goes through our operations and all the other accounts. But what should I be doing with that money that I get, and others that are on this, that watch this? What do we do? Do we just spend it however we want, or what's your advice to us?
Well, for me, here's the process I went through last year. I was like, I want to know what my monthly number is, and explain that further. What that means to me is how much am I spending each month, right? And I wanted a real number. I had an idea, okay, and I'm just going to throw numbers out here. I was going to say, I've got family of fours. Let's say that my monthly number was $10,000. That's in my gut, but do I know? And it's just like, but then, right. We've all, you got books that are like, oh, you need to budget. And I was like, I don't want to budget. Budgeting sucks. I will do it for about maybe a day, and then I'm done. It's just too much work. I just wanted a simple, what's my number? How much money do I need to put into my personal bank account so that I cover my bills, make sure that my children are fed, and put a little bit of money later for, when I want to, not work anymore, and also when, the car engine blows up. What I did is the thing was, I want a real number. All right. And I wanted to figure out a way to get that number quickly. And so what I did is I went to my bank statement for the last 3 months. And I looked at the summary page. I have one of two numbers there. It could be a total money spent, or it could be a total withdrawals and then checks. Now, some people still use checks. I don't really use checks that much. It's pretty much auto bill pay. So let's say you just have a total number. And then what I did is I looked at the prior 3 months. So we're in April right now. So I looked at January, February, March. And I said, okay, I've got a total for each month. And I added them together and then divided by 3. So I took the average of the 3 months. And I said, that's how much I'm spending. Whether or not I like that number or not, that is a real number.
Talk about simplifying, because I'm thinking I did something similar, but then I went and started breaking it down into what did I spend at for entertainment and for food. And I like the idea of just like, what you're going to spend it on.
Exactly.
Right? So, or you don't even know, you just know what you're going to spend each month.
Exactly. Yeah. And so from that point, there are, I think, three more steps. At the end, if you count, there are a couple more steps. So the next step is I want to figure out how much of that money is recurring bills. Okay. And so I've got a blue envelope here representing recurring expenses. Now, recurring expenses can be anything that, it's self-explanatory, recurs. So it's recurring every single month. That could be your Netflix. That could be, your subscription to, I don't know, fantasy football, whatever. As long as it's a recurring expense, that's recurring. Your mortgage, your rent, your utilities, all that. And so what I did is I took a highlighter. Now, if you want to be a little bit more tech savvy than me, you could export that to like a CSV file and use like a Google Sheet or Excel and just highlight it. So you could either digitally highlight it or you could actually highlight it on the paper. And so everything that was a recurring expense, I highlighted.
Mm.
And then I totaled that. So let's say that my recurring expenses equaled $4,000. So that means everything else is what I call a day-to-day expense. And so that could be gas, that could be eating out, having fun, whatever you're doing. And so you have two numbers of how you're spending money.
Right.
And so we've got 6,000 in our recurring expenses. And in this example, we've got, no, we'll get to that one. That was actually the most important one right there. That was, and then we've got our day-to-day expenses. So in this example, let's say we've got 4,000. So I started with 10,000 and I said 6,000 is recurring expenses and 4,000 is day-to-day.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I'm tracking you here.
Now this one here, this is the savings envelope. And we as Americans historically save on average about 5%. Some people save more, some people don't. 5% is probably not enough. The number I like to get to is 10%. However, if you've never really spent time saving money, it can be painful to get up to that number. So if we go back to my $10,000 numbers, I would say, okay, well, if I'm going to save 10%, that's $1,000. Well, I've got these recurring expenses and these day-to-day expenses, and my children, they still want clothes. And so what we have to do is maybe it's going to be best if we took a baby step. So what I say to people is do some amount of money into savings. So with our savings, that could be like $1. If you can't save $1 a month, then what you can do is you can go to any shopping center and start looking on the ground for pennies. And I guarantee you're going to find some money on the ground. And in fact, I do this thing every morning called a penny walk where I look for pennies. And it's fun because I pick up a penny, or sometimes I get quarters and all that other stuff. And so the thing is there's really no excuse not to save any money. So, and some people like, oh, you need to save $5 a day. I don't care how much it is. Just start with something, because if you start that, you're going to put yourself in a good habit where next month, maybe you just double that number. So you start with $1 this month and then go to $2 next month and then go to $3, and eventually build your way up to where you can do 10%.
Yeah, right.
And what ends up happening is, where does the money come from? It comes from one of these two. It either comes from recurring or day-to-day. Well, if you think about it, let's say you eat out a lot, maybe you just skip one meal and you put that into a savings account. And I will tell you the first habit to establish in order to get control of your money is putting some money in a savings account. Because what that will do is it changes the way we look at money. And, let's say in this example here, I was spending $10,100 when I was only bringing in $10,000. Well, my first step is going to be, okay, I want to save $1. Whoops. I got to do my yellow one day to day. I've got to save at least $1, and then I've got to get my number down to where I'm not spending more than I'm making. And the thing is we tend to spend almost without thinking. It's just the way we are. And one of the things Mike Michalowicz talks in his book, Profit First, is about Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law basically says our demand for something will increase based on the supply of what we have for it. And when Parkinson wrote that, he said, if I give you a project to work on and I give you 1 week to work on it, when will you get the project done? A week from now.
Right.
However, if I give you a month to get it done, when will that project get done? A month from now, because we have more time.
Yeah. All work expands to the time allotted, right?
Exactly. And that's the way it is with any resource we have.
Right.
And so What we do when we put that dollar in our savings account is we reduce how much money is available for us to spend on either one of these two things. And what happens is as we every month put a little bit more into here, we get better at spending this, and we figure, oh, you know what? I don't really need that, or I don't really want that, or I'm not really getting any value from it.
Yeah. What, do you do this? You're showing envelopes, and I'm guessing as just a way of showing it to us, but you're not really using envelopes, are you? You're putting it in your bank and then separating it out. How do you do that?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. That was a great question. So for me, I pay myself once a month. Some people pay themselves weekly, some people twice a month, but I pay myself once a month. And so what I do is when I get my paycheck, it comes on the last day of the month, so it funds everything for the rest of the month. And I have 3 bank accounts, and I nickname it. So I've got my recurring expenses bank account, I've got my day-to-day bank account, and my savings account. And what I do is I have it so that when my paycheck is issued, it's issued based on the amounts that I've designated. Now, alternatively, what you can do is you can just put it all into one account and then automatically move it. But I like to do it where it's just automatic, so I don't even have to take that extra step.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But I use 3 different bank accounts to manage my personal finances. Now, let me tell you a quick story about this. So a year ago, I said to myself, I wasn't saving any money on the personal side. And so what I did is I started with $100 a month, okay? Because I knew I could do that. And then when I got to January, January of 2019, or 2020, sorry, I had, I think, $165 in my savings account. And then when I got to January of 21, this January, I had like $15,000 in there.
Wait a minute. You're only putting $100 a month in there, right?
Yeah. Well, no. So that's a great point.
Yeah.
Now I'm a business owner. When I had extra money, I put that extra money into savings.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to spend it, because I'm susceptible to Parkinson's disease just like anyone else is.
Right.
And the other thing, what I did is, I refinanced my house back in January and ended up dropping my interest rate by a point, which saved me about $434. Which is interesting because a couple years ago, I paid off my van. And it was about $430 a month. And I was all excited about it because that's extra money and I could save it. But the interesting thing is Parkinson's law took over my life and the money just disappeared. And so when I went to refinance, I said, I'm not going to make that same mistake. And so now when I do my paycheck, that $434 goes into my green savings bank account now instead. And so I still keep my monthly amount at that same $10,000 that I talked about. And what ends up happening, instead of that $434 going into the recurring expenses, it's going here.
Right.
And so it's really powerful how that little step of starting with $100 a month set my intention to set money aside.
Yeah, man, isn't that so true? Like, I've had that same experience where, if you don't create the space for it, nothing will fill it in.
Yeah.
You open up the bank account and start putting a little bit in there. And so it has a place to go, whatever, if you believe in the whole law of attraction in the universe, right, it goes in there. And if you don't believe in that, maybe it's just something internally. Maybe it's the competitive nature of a lot of us, like, oh, I'll get some money in there. Oh, let me put some more money in there. Like, I find that when I start saving, if I give myself a chunk and just really focus on it, the rest of it starts to it gets easier and easier.
Yeah.
And I find that, all of a sudden I've got that money there.
Well, think about this. Like, if you want to be successful in real estate, you need to make phone calls on a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same, so it's, we can guarantee success if we take the right actions. And so it's the exact same thing with money. And the right action with money, the first one is to just start saving something. And I like to say that the direction that you go in is more important than the speed. If I had said, "Oh, I can't start saving until I have $1,000 to put away," I wouldn't have put that money away.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely have to create the, again, I say create the space. You got to make sure you do it. Make it as a priority. Just setting up that account is important too. I love that. You mentioned the book that that you're doing another take on it for real estate agents, but that's Profit First, and Mike Michalowicz, right? Did I say that?
Mike Michalowicz wrote the original. I've got a copy of it of his book. His book's right here. This is his. Yeah. He wrote that back in 2014. This is mine. It's coming out in July, and the thing is that when Mike wrote his book, he wrote it for the broad small business market.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've been, I talked about my 80-20 with choosing real estate agents as who I wanted to focus on. And it was something that I actually started doing Profit First back in 2010, and I did it because I had been in my CPA practice for about 2 years at that point, and I was not doing the right things with my money. And let me share with you how bad things were. I maxed out my credit cards, and I had used up all my personal savings. And I had a little bit of financial education. I was a CPA, I had an MBA, and then I also had an accounting degree. And all that knowledge didn't do me any good because I wasn't doing the right things. And the thing that changed for me was I set up one bank account, and this was a business bank account, and I started putting 10% of every time I got paid into that bank account. And I called that my Damon bank account. And it changed everything for me. And so when I read Mike's book, Profit First, and he talked about segregating your money using bank accounts, I was like, I've been doing this for 8 years. And the other challenge I find with money is that many real estate agents that are successful don't have a problem making money. The problem they have is keeping it. Yeah. And it's just like, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to where they're like, they get their 1099 and they're like, where did all the money go? And I'm just like, it's heartbreaking because, only 10% of agents, at least in my area, sell 20 to 30 homes a year, which that's, it sounds like it's easy, but everyone here knows that's a lot of work to get there. And you do all that work and then you get to the end of the year and you feel like you don't have anything to show for it. And so Profit First is really designed to help people make sure they pay themselves first. Also make sure that they don't have to worry about their tax bills. So we separate money for your taxes. And then we make sure that you don't overspend on business expenses. And quite frankly, that's where a lot of realtors are challenges because there's this mentality, hey, if I just sell one more house, I'll be able to pay for that. And interesting enough,
guilty.
Go ahead.
I said I'm just guilty.
Yeah, of course. Right.
Yeah.
And the problem is let's say you sell one more house, you get a really nice commission. Now, some people may say this is not a good commission, but you get a $10,000 commission. Well, that $10,000 isn't all yours. Some of it belongs to the government. Some of it belongs to your vendors, But the default is we see that check, like, oh, I can go spend that, and I'm going to go and have a nice vacation, or I'm going to put a down payment on a car or whatever, or just, pay for my living expenses. And I think that's where we get messed up a little bit being business owners is we a lot of times look at that top number when we really should be looking at what we keep.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a great book. I was in that position where I was faced with that tax bill and, with that holy shit moment, what am I going to do? And, nobody wants to feel that. And I mean, I'm telling our agents now as they're getting going, like put that money away.
Yeah.
And really, Profit First is the book that I read that helped me straighten it all out. I had a mentor. If Dan Bunch ends up listening to this, he got me straightened out a couple of years ago, where he said, you owe that money to the government first. And so I slapped me around a little bit and got me refocused on paying that thing first. And so, or paying for taxes. Now, the idea of profit first is really important, right? We should be profitable as business people. So this idea goes back to, I love your envelopes because it's how my mom taught me how to take my allowance every week and put it in different envelopes, so I knew how to save and spend and enjoy it. And it's funny that we move away from that as we get older. And then after I read that book and we set up all the accounts and started running everything that way, in the last 2 years, it has been so enjoyable to say at the end of the year, look at that tax money there and write the check for it and be done with it and have that weight lifted off your shoulder. So if that's really why we needed to have this talk, and why we'll have another one later on about Profit First, because if we don't control, we have the ability to control this money right from the beginning, right from the moment we get it. I just got that check today. I have a plan for that money, and then I can have fun with what's left over. And that's really what this is all about. And it's so challenging, and I just see too many agents that are struggling with that at this time of the year, where they're that big knot in your stomach where you don't have enough to pay your taxes, and then so what you do is you push them off you defer them all till later in the year, right? And hope that you make enough, and so then we talked about this the other day. You're just kind of in that cycle. So
yeah. Oh, definitely. And I've done the same thing. I don't know if I told you this when we talked earlier, but before I read Profit First, I would, I don't know a little bit about taxes, right?
Right.
I would always wait until September to do my business returns, and then October to file my personal returns, because I didn't have the tax money at the end of the year. And I was like, I'm sick of this. I've got to do a different thing. And that was a great thing about Profit First, is it got me to separate my tax money before I had a chance to spend it both personally and business wise. And ever since then, I've always had the money at the end of the year. And I also give myself little bonuses quarterly. One of them, I took a trip to Ireland a couple of years ago. And then last fall, I used my profit bonus to get scuba certified. So now I'm a scuba diver.
That's awesome.
So it's fun to get that, extra money once a quarter, and it's extra money. It's just like, it's a bonus. And this, just a couple of days ago, I got some scuba tanks for myself. So I'll be using those over the weekend. So and then you can spend it on, it's just nice to have that extra money, because now we get to see every quarter that our work matters and it's actually contributing to our happiness.
Yeah. Well, you're reminding me I need to go make my quarterly draws in my different bank and take my profit.
Yeah.
This has been awesome. I'm excited. We're going to come back on probably in June and talk some more about this and do a deep dive. Thank you for getting us straightened out on our personal finances. I love it. So just the idea to recap, what's your monthly number? Once you find your monthly number, what's your recurring number out of that? What's your recurring expenses? What's your day-to-day expenses? And then once you've got that, figuring out what am I going to carve out and make sure that I save every month. And start small if you need to, but get it done so that you can start to build that, because that will pull more money in. And then and then we went into Profit First, which I'm really excited to read your book. Having read Mike's book, I'm looking forward to your version of it for real estate agents, which has been licensed to. You've been licensed to do that.
Yeah, it's the official one for real estate agents.
That is fantastic, because I think that we're a different breed, right? I don't know if we're Mavericks or just stubborn, or I don't know.
It's a different business, because you deal with this seasonality, right?
Right.
And so that's a challenge. And there's actually not a lot of good information about how to deal with the money that we make in real estate. a lot of the information is about how do we grow the business, how do we sell more houses, and all this other stuff, and how do we take care of our team members, how do we grow a team,
Right.
but all that stuff is built on the oxygen of our money, and if we're not intentional about it, it kind of moves away like water.
Exactly. I love it. Thank you.
It was great talking, Rob.
Gracious with your time. I really appreciate that. So before we go, so tell people where we'll end up posting this, but where should they go to pre-order the book and find you, and because you have tax service as well.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that, and tell us what are your deets.
So the best place to go is getprofitfirst.com, and you can sign up to pre-order the book, and then I'll reach out to you. I like to interact with people one-on-one because money's a personal thing, and it's not one of those things where, and you could even leave a message in there that you'd like to talk with me further. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. All right, so that was Get Profit First. Go pre-order your book. Thanks so much for being here, Damon. Really appreciate it. For those of you who are tuning in, thanks for being here. You can look us up at Real Estate Life with Rob Edgerly on Facebook, and our IG handle is mine is at Rob Edgerly. And hey, we're really excited to be doing these shows. And again, thanks, Damon. And remember, everybody, it's not just where you live, it's how you live. Have a great day. See you next time.